What is the connection between confidence and communication?
Huge connection. Look, when you have the utmost confidence in the room, your words, well, we break it up into non-verbal and verbal. So your non-verbal communication is your body language, your facial expressions, your hand gestures, your posture, everything that comes with it, right? Everything that you see. The verbal being your words, your tone, your pace, your volume, all of these things then coming together. And I can see why people would find that a lot. It's a lot to think about. And that's not something I want people to think about at the beginning of their journey. But when it comes to confidence and communication, once you actually master your confidence, communication feels so much easier because you're so much more centered. I'll give you an example. I used to have a really high pitched voice when I started on the radio 8 years ago. And I heard my radio demo one year and it was like, "Hi, I'm Nimi Mehta. I'm on Radio 1 Abu Dhabi." And it was just the most cringiest voice. And I heard it and I said to myself, well, if I hate listening to it, the whole country hates listening to it. I need to change my voice. And that's exactly what I did. I went from, "Hi, this is Nimi Mehta," to, "Hi, this is Nimi Mehta." And the way I did that was actually training my voice. Like
Okay.
your voice is like an instrument. It's like a vocal cord. The way you tune a guitar, the way you tune a piano,
Wow.
you can change
Okay.
the sound of your voice.
I didn't know that.
You can, yeah. So what I did every day was started pushing my voice lower. Every time I spoke, even if that was to my mom, to my sister, to my partner, I spoke like lower, and the depth, it kind of became thicker. I made my voice thicker. And I'm the first to tell you, and unfortunately, as women, when we have squeaky, high-pitched voices, which may be natural to us, people listen to us less, right? People won't stop. You won't have people's attention as much. You can change that voice if you get this kind of feedback, or if you yourself feel like, I don't like the sound of my voice.
And I want to change it.
And I want to change it.
But why is a low-pitched voice worse than a high-pitched voice?
Low-pitched voices just command more attention. It is just even if you were to do studies, the way that you hear a low-pitched voice that is thicker
You
and
think
more
it's more
in-depth,
intelligent. You
sounds,
perceive it to be more intelligent.
it's perceived as more intelligent. It's perceived as they've got it together.
Okay.
It's perceived as they know what they're talking about. And it stems from that authority of a voice, right? Example, Obama. Him, whenever he gives a speech, that depth of his voice commands attention. Politicians are literally trained to change their voice to ensure it's lower, thicker, with more depth, so that they can command the attention of the people.
So is that something you train people with as well?
Yes. And even, when we're speaking about voice, it also then comes into your breathing and the way that you're breathing. And there's 3 different places that people speak out of. So you either speak from the throat, or you speak from your chest, or you speak from your stomach.
Yeah.
And the best place to speak from is your stomach, right? Because I found with a lot of people who speak through their throat, their throat starts hurting after a while.
Yes.
It's not sustainable, and that's
Yes.
not where the depth comes from. The chest, to speak from there means that you're not going to be able to breathe properly, and breathing is essential when you're public speaking. And then if you're speaking from your stomach, it's just that depth comes through, that power comes through.
And how do you speak from your stomach?
So it's a lot of centering and it's a lot of breath work that you need to
Okay.
do to be able to start gaining power from your stomach. So, and it wouldn't take a lot of like muscle tensing as well to get there. So whenever you speak, for example, let's just use the word apple, okay? When you say apple, you want to push from your stomach. So you go,
Apple.
apple. Can you feel your stomach kind of tensing?
Apple. Yeah.
Apple.
Apple.
Apple. And you kind of are
Apple.
pushing,
Yeah.
right? And that depth comes through. If I was to speak just from my throat, it would be apple, apple, apple. That is literally just from my throat. My stomach's not even moving. Apple, apple, apple. You're stuck in your throat if your voice is high pitched. You need to push it to your stomach. It's very technical, and I know it sounds really intense.
So can you tell where I'm speaking from?
When you're speaking, I feel like you vary, Because when we started at the beginning, and I have a detector for this, when you started at the beginning, it started actually in your throat. But then when you just asked, can you hear where I'm speaking from? I could feel that from your stomach because there was just so much depth and grounding in your voice. But it's something that I work with all my clients to work through over time, right? It's not, again, a
This is
one-time
so
fix.
interesting, by the way. I had no idea.
Yeah, there's so many layers to it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
Mm.
What is the biggest communication hack or trick that you think billionaires, CEOs, politicians are using?
I love this question. So I would say they know who they're talking to. And that's what a lot of us don't realize. We use a one rule for all when we speak to people, but it's very different. So if I was to walk into a room of, 100 year 11 students, right? The way I speak to them is going to be very different to how I walk into a room full of CEOs and VPs, right? My language is going to be different. My tone is going to be different. And I think that this is what differentiates the best public speakers in the world. And the second thing I would say is the best speakers in the world, your Tony Robbins, your Jay Shettys, all of these people that show up on stage and give phenomenal speeches. And it makes you feel like it's the first time they've ever said it. They have never spoken these words before, and they've said it on the spot and you feel it. The reason is because all of these people have done this speech probably over 100 times. They have gone back, refined their speech, practice, practice, practice. That is what the top speakers in the world have done. That is what the top CEOs, VPs, entrepreneurs in the world do. The first time you hear them speak isn't the first time they've spoken those words. And I think that's the difference, is that the power in preparation, being the most prepared
Person in
speaker,
the room.
is
Yeah,
literally the
and I
most
think
powerful.
with everything, not just speaking, right? With anything, if you're prepared, is the confidence you exude is just something else.
Which just proves that you don't need to be a natural speaker.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
You can be an introvert or label yourself as an introvert, but you can train yourself to become a powerful speaker and you can show up as that. And so this is what the top speakers I think do, is that they just prepare and they are so ready to just show up as that person because they've trained themselves again and again.
No, that's beautiful.
Mm.
So let's say, for example, there's someone who's walking into a job interview. What is the persona that they need to carry? How should they speak? And how should they? Because I truly believe the way you show up is going to change the fate of your life, right? Especially in a job interview. Because one career move here or there can change everything.
Totally, totally. And I think that it's, again, knowing who you are speaking to.
Okay.
So if you know exactly who you're going to be in the room with, visualization also is a huge thing that really, really works and is so powerful. So every time I step into a room, every time I know I'm going to be on a stage, I actually Google like what the stage looks like if I haven't hosted on that stage before,
Okay.
what that room looks like, what that stage looks like, what that podcast studio looks like. And then I actually close my eyes and I visualize me walking into that room, chest up, shoulders back, best posture, smiling, looking happy. I'm closing my eyes, you can see, whilst I'm doing this because I'm visualizing it as we're going. And then I visualize the whole thing from me walking onto the stage like an absolute swan or panther, like Donna from Suits. I get onto that stage. I then visualize me doing a really powerful opening. I don't go into the details of what that sounds like. It's just visualizing the imagery. And then I visualize the people in the audience or in the interview room and their positive reactions back to me, which is eye contact with me, smiling at me, their head tilting slightly to the left because that indicates that someone is invested in what you're speaking about.
Yeah.
And so reading that room and then me seeing myself shake their hand, leave that room and walk out with confidence and know that I'm going to get that call afterwards to say, hi, we'd love to give you the job. So visualizing is a huge technique that, again, a lot of the top speakers in the world use, because once you actually do it in real time, you feel like you've already done it. And therefore it feels familiar. And a lot of us are overcome with anxiety and nerves, that sick feeling in your stomach, right? Before you go and do something.
Like that gut clenching.
Horrible, horrible. And I get it. I'm with you. But in order to overcome those kind of nerves, I would say something like visualization is really, really helpful to make you feel like you've already done it.
And I want to talk a bit about, because I've studied about why this works, and it's a technique that I actually implement very often. And the reason that I found it works was for someone like me, I like to know the why.
Yeah.
Right? Why? Like, why is this helping me? And I found that the reason it works is because when I'm taking my brain, right? And I like to separate myself from my brain, but when I'm taking my brain through the situation, it is no more out of its comfort zone.
Yeah.
So as soon as I'm taking it through its situation, beforehand visualizing it, when I actually walk in, the brain's like, I know this.
Exactly.
I got this. We already did this yesterday.
Yeah.
So now I'm confident and I'm relaxed.
Yes.
Right? And when you're relaxed, I think a more authentic version of yours kind of is on display.
Totally. Everything's familiar.
Yeah, it's familiar.
It's familiar, right? You're in that space. And so when you're actually physically there, you're like, oh, okay, let's go again. Let's get this done because I'm going to feel great after this. I've been here before.
And I know what that final feeling feels like.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's always what you bear in mind is that final feeling when I'm done, how proud am I going to be of myself? You know, how proud am I going to be? And I always keep that kind of in my mind, and that helps me just set the tone for the whole process. So yeah, if you've got a job interview, if you're, got an intense something coming up, visualize it beforehand is really powerful.